Greetings, Darklings, from across the interwebs. This is once again I, the Duchess Precious Ken, here for the Sounds and Shadows podcast, and I'm really excited. I have a friend that is going along with what we've been doing lately. We're trying to talk about more in the scene than just artists and bands, because there's so much more that makes this all work and makes it a community. And one of my favorite places to go see shows over in Detroit and Hamtramck is at Smalls, a venue that's been there a long time. And there's a reason why artists always want to go there and come back to it. It's because Mike and Kat run a place that fosters, taking care of bands, caring about them, and helping to make sure that they are seen and heard. And we've played there before. It's just a wonderful venue and place, and they have an exciting festival coming up that we're going to talk to. So it is my extreme pleasure to introduce Kat. Hi, Kat.
Hi, Ken. Hi, everybody in Sounds and Shadows land.
It's good to see you, and not from behind a bar this time where I'm just waving and saying, bring me another, old style or what have you.
Right. Is that what you're drinking right now?
No, Rachel got Coronas this time,
Lovely.
which is a weird one, not for us, but it's kind of the end of winter here. And I think she's just trying to project a tropical state of mind to us.
I love it. That's exactly where I'm at right now.
I will give one other shout out here. You guys just had a show last Thursday that I was really bummed that I missed. It's tough for me to get out to Detroit during the week, being a secret goth banker. But I will give a shout out for the t-shirt here for our dear friend Steven with that Stoneburner show. How was that?
Fantastic. Steven and Nathan are just a powerhouse on stage. This was honestly one of my favorite performances I've seen from Steven because it was just electric. There was so much energy, between the wolf mask and the projections and like the rawness of the heaviness of the percussion that Nathan brings to the stage. It was great. Plus, I got to see Donna, who is one
I
of my
mean,
favorites
that's
of all
always a
time.
delight. Donna always fills the heart with joy. And I've talked to Steven about this. I was, like I said, really bummed that I didn't make it out there for the show. But as always, he always brings something new, both aesthetically and sonically, every time he goes on tour. You're not kind of just seeing the same show over and over again. It's a full production. And so, yeah, that sounded really exciting.
Absolutely. And they're Stephen and Don are two of our favorite people to have at Smalls. We've had a really long and good relationship with them. And here's to many, many, many more years of that.
Indeed. So one of the questions that I always like to open up with and ask, as like I said, you've had a long time in the scene as both a DJ, a promoter. I remember talking with you that you were kind of the original Detroit street team when that was a thing, and we'll kind of talk about what that means for Pigface. But maybe the younger folk that don't remember when someone had to actually go pass out flyers to get people to go to shows at bars, that was you and kind of how you came up in it. So you had a moment in the past, a young and impressionable Kat, where you saw something or heard something, saw a show, heard an album for the first time, went to a club night the first time, something, it
Yeah.
popped and you went, this is me. This is who I am for life and what it is. Tell me about what that was and what brought you into this scene and made you say, this is who I am.
It's kind of my gateway to music was honestly my mom. I grew up with a mother who was in radio. She started out, doing like the early morning news and kind of moved forward from there. And so music was always around me.
Yeah.
I remember getting Cure cassettes like from like the music closet at one of the radio stations she was running and things like that. And that kind of kicked open the door really early. As far as club nights, the first one that I attended was at Frankie's in the underground in Toledo. Um,
Oh,
Definitely before I should have been there, but I wasn't trying to drink. It was just I wanted to go and be around like-minded individuals and hear this music that I had gotten so into thanks to friends or friends, older brothers or older sisters that would pass me
right.
cool tapes or introduce me to stuff. And that was kind of the gateway drug. Now, never in a million years, my first time stepping foot in the Frankie's, did I think I'm going to be the person in that booth doing that. Never crossed my mind. That took a couple years for that seed to get planted in my head, but it was so refreshing to be in this space, even though it was small and dark and kind of dank,
Yeah.
just to see people dressing like me and excited about the same music that I was, and just dancing with wild abandon. It was a real eye opener the first time I went there.
That's incredible. I had one like that too, same kind of thing, but it was City Club for me in the early 90s. And I remember the Michigan IDs back then, if you used Clairol Cover Up #5, a toothpick, and nail polish, you could do things like change an 8 to a 4 or a 7 to a 1, and yeah, get to sneak into City Club to go hear music and dance around when you were 15 or 16.
Oh yeah. And it was just, not only was the experience overwhelming, you also felt like you were getting away with something a little bit, which kind of
A little bit
heightened the
dangerous, a little bit
experience.
bad. I love it. So let's fast forward here, and you have kind of, through DJing and done that and done a lot of shows and things in it, but became a part of Smalls. How did that evolve, and you kind of become part of the Smalls family there, and now in a lot of ways the face of it for a lot of people? And how what is it that really was so important about that and exciting for you to kind of be the resident DJ there, not just, kind of going out and doing sets?
Well, my relationship with Smalls began when an ex-boyfriend's band played there a million years ago. And I loved it because the live room was separated from the bar room. So if what was going on in the live room wasn't your thing, you could just come, grab a drink, catch your breath, and it was a whole different vibe. So then they started booking more industrial and underground shows there with Dark Productions. So that's how that relationship got kind of fostered. And then when Dark Productions was kind of left in my hands, um, Smalls just made sense. Like Mike and Natalie, they really are, they have such a love for the underground and uh, goth industrial experimental community. They welcome everyone with open arms. And it was a new crowd for them too, because it was a lot of metal and punk and rock and stuff
Sure.
going on. So this kind of it brought in a new crowd and it added a new element. Then, years and years go by from, I was started DJing in Ohio, then I moved up to Luna and was doing electro industrial Wednesdays there. And then I moved to City Club. And then when I got tired of everything at City Club, I said, all right, well, I'm just going to take a step back for a second, figure out what it is that I want to do. And Mike had said, well, why don't we do a night here? And we started out with Thirst Wave, which is the more like retro, new wave, dark 80s and 90s oriented night. And it started off as just like a Thursday night. We're taking a chance. Haven't really ever done club nights at Smalls. We'll see how it goes. And it kind of exploded.
Yeah.
So after that, I don't know, City Club went through a really weird period where a lot of people kind of fell out of love with it for a number of reasons. And it was discussed, the idea of doing a goth or industrial night. And, originally when you think of going up against such an institution as City Club, you think that's daunting,
Yeah. I think City Club, I think City Club is actually like the oldest still operating goth club in America, maybe. I think they have that star on their name or what have you.
Absolutely. But we're like, you know what? Why not? Both myself and Mike, DJ Electrosonic, and DJ Aaron Hingst, we were all ex City Club DJs at that point, and we thought, let's do something else together here. And it happened so naturally. And some people already felt comfortable coming to Smalls because of the shows. Some had already come to a couple Thirst Wave nights, so it wasn't like no man's land to them.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of grown and grown and grown. And I was just talking about someone with this the other day. The pandemic was soul crushing for all of us, but for the club nights to come back, especially with the gusto and the fervor and the excitement that they have, like, it's insane. Every weekend I'm blown away. Like, the support is nothing but gratitude for everybody who comes out, because we couldn't do it without everyone supporting us.
Right. And I mean, that was the clubs that were able to do it and have the loyalty of people, you had to go through a couple of lean years there, and a lot of clubs did not make it, did
And then,
not find a way to
so
kind
many,
of get to
yeah,
the other side.
so many beautiful independent venues all over the country
Yeah,
were either bought or they decided, well, maybe it's time to retool. We should do something a little bit more
right.
mainstream, or maybe we're not interested in live music anymore. And everyone had their own reasons for doing what they did. We
We're
were
going to
lucky.
get a stuffed parrot and play Jimmy Buffett now. That's,
I mean, I don't have stuffed parrot money, but I do have kitty puppet money. Um, no, but in all seriousness, we were really lucky to make it through the way we did. And it was because of the support of our friends, our family, our regulars, patrons, when we were selling the shirts, when we did the It's a Smalls World After All comp, which is still available for purchase on Bandcamp. It was artists from all over the country and all over the world that we had worked with that were so cool and just donated a free song to us, you know?
I
And
remember when you guys did that, and I did a review of it and kind of shared on it, that it was huge too. And it definitely wasn't just goth industrial stuff. There were a lot of big name ones that but I mean, it was punk, it was post punk, it was alternative grunge. I mean, that comp had a little bit of everything, and also a lot of Detroit flavor of bands from Detroit, because you guys are important to them and kind of gave a lot of people their start.
And that's kind of what it's all about. We may not be the biggest venue or even the fanciest venue by any means, but we will treat you with the love and respect that you deserve as a musician. We'll make sure you're fed, you're watered, everyone gets paid. There's never been a dispute with that. It's going to sound great in that room because that room is, and actually some improvements have just been made recently leading up to Fixation. So it's going to sound even more bonkers good in there. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. We're gonna get to that very soon. But it's funny. I shared Martin Atkins did a post the other day, and it was something, I'm gonna get the quote a little bit wrong, but it was basically, I would much rather play a packed, smaller venue than one with a bunch of space in it because you couldn't fill it. You should always be playing at the biggest venue that you can sell out and pack wall to wall.
Yeah.
And when I heard him say that, and I shared it in sounds, and people had, opinions one way or the other, but for the most part we're agreeing it's a bad idea to disagree with Martin. Generally speaking, you're going to end up looking foolish. But I think that really struck me, and when I heard it, that's where my head immediately went, was Smalls. It's that perfect venue for being able to feel the energy of a packed room, and like you said, then being able to walk 20 feet away and actually carry on a conversation with somebody,
Mhm.
and talk to the bands that are playing through there and seeing. That's what I love about it, is it always feels such a close-knit community every time I go to Smalls.
Yep, and
And you
that's
guys
one of the
get in
things
fun food trucks and stuff.
we do. Yeah, we do food pop-ups. I mean, we've done a little bit of everything in our history. We've even done stand-up comedy.
Oh,
Um, we just had Randy from the Trailer Park Boys there not that long ago for Randy's Christmas cheeseburger party.
he ate some cheeseburgers. That's awesome.
Yeah, and Dean Del Rey's played there. A bunch of great comedians have. And it is that sense of community. That's why I fell so in love with the bar and the people there, was because they didn't know who I was, but they made me feel real welcome. And if there's ever a concern I had, they did their best to correct things. I mean, most of it was things out of their control. It was just something ridiculous, God thing happening. But yeah, they always went out of their way to make sure everything was cool when I was just a patron or just bringing shows there. And that's what I want to instill in the artists and bands that I work with. When we cultivate these relationships, it's so great when bands say, no, we want to play Smalls like every time through. Because I understand you can't play the same venue forever. You've eventually got to move
Sure.
on to something bigger or something that's 20 or 30 minutes north, just because it's a different market
Audience and people,
crowd.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's really gratifying when people come back to us as often as they do, because that maybe makes me think we're doing something right, and that's always a good feeling.
Well, I mean, I'll say, is both an artist, as somebody who just likes to go to shows and write about them and likes to go to a dance night. It is, that's what makes me want to always come back and tell bands, when people are asking me as like a writer, hey, what should I try in Detroit? It's one of the first things that I say, is to reach out to you guys. And I think going along with it, as we said, I mean, you've been at this for a while, you've been doing this for a while and successful, but Mike, I think, even has a few years on you, and has
Oh,
been a
absolutely.
part of the industrial scene going back about as far as you can go to wax tracks and those days, and to have that kind of years of relationships that are good, where all the bands, speak highly of and have that respect, that has to help a ton for bringing people in.
Absolutely. And you know who Mike would be another good interview because he could speak as a tour manager, as a promoter,
Sure.
a booking agent, venue owner, musician. But yeah, that would be a hell of an interview.
I will have to have Mike on too. That would be great. I'd love to. So the thing I want to go to next a little bit before we talk about the big festival coming up is part of what you do too is as a DJ. And for a lot of the shows, you will come and do a DJ set before or after, in between bands playing and whatnot. And that's been a big part of who you are. Tell me a little bit in kind of, especially this, I don't know, after going through COVID and, having that something that's in people's heads ongoing still, in thinking they don't maybe get out as much as they used to, or maybe we're just getting old. But to pick, this is the night that I want to go to or invest in, or maybe that I'm going to get a sitter for or something, if they have a family now or whatnot, that they pick to go to Smalls to have their good time. What do you think makes a good DJ night? And how much do you try and mix up in your sets the classic favorites, hey, I'm going to put on, Sisters of Mercy, Floodland right now, and everyone's going to hit the floor, mixed with, I know you always, every time I go, I'm going to hear Twin Tribes or Actors or Bootleg. You mix in new music that's exciting now along with the classics. What is it that you think brings that energy and makes people love Smalls for that?
I mean, speaking from a DJ's perspective, I think, someone will be like, well, I don't know. It was kind of a lot of new stuff. And I remind them that everything was once new, including all of us to this scene. So at one point in time, Sisters of Mercy were new. Depeche Mode were new. Nine Inch Nails were new. So I'd be doing a great disservice to the artists that I love and want to support and that are putting out really phenomenal work, to just say, well, yeah, I don't know. It might not, only two people might dance. But part of it is, it's also like working stuff into your sets appropriately. Like, you can't just play something one week that no one's ever heard and give up because only one person danced and it's the one guy that'll dance to anything. It's
You
I
just
mean,
made me think of Rodney Anonymous there and the Dead Milkmen for You'll Dance to Anything when you said that.
I love Rodney and I love the Dead. I don't know if that's a really hard one to explain without going on for like 5 hours. I think, I don't know, between all of us, so like the core crowd for Thirst Wave and Industrial's Not Dead is myself, Mike, DJ Electrosonic, DJ Aaron Squayo, and John Noble. And we all bring something a little bit different to the table, which is kind of what I wanted. And we switch up in intervals, so nothing ever gets stale. I mean, sometimes as a DJ, you're like, I'm kind of phoning it in for the last 10 minutes because I'm not sure where to go. But it doesn't allow for too much of that kind of time to happen. And the dance floor is rotating all the time. So we're not getting bored, they're not getting bored. Everything kind of stays fresh throughout the whole night. And I think variety is the key. I mean, if I wanted to hear the same old songs from 2002, I could just as easily make a playlist and put it
Sit
on
at
my
home and put
system.
on
And
your Spotify or whatever, right?
yep, and which is not to say there's not a place for those things at club night. Do not
Sure.
get me, but it's just when you weigh, especially if it's like Industrial's Not Dead, with the exception of obviously the old school nights or the Wax Tracks tribute nights. It's important to get new blood and new music.
Yeah. I think another thing you said there, and I've heard other DJs say that's so important, is you have to, it's a communication with your crowd on any given night. You have to feel what's happening and they're feeling. You have to know yourself. Like you said, there's nights where you walk in and you are just firing on all cylinders. You're feeling it. You're reading the energy of the crowd. You're hitting the songs, changing the right way. And there might be a night when you're not feeling it. And maybe that's one where you're reading that and you're saying, you know what, Mike, can you step in here and maybe change things up or something? But you guys communicating with each other, because like you said, you've got different DJs there that have different styles and bring something else to the table, and reading who's out on that dance floor right now.
Yep, it's totally about, people are like, well, how would you want to learn how to DJ or the idea of it? I'm like, I'm not really sure there's not like a textbook or anything. You just kind of learn by reading the room, which I think it applies to being a DJ, but it applies to social situations, work, just any kind of relationship really. And you
True.
figure out what's working and what's not. And some nights, obviously, the crowds are willing to take a bit more of a chance than others. And that's great because you can just throw in complete wild cards out of nowhere and you're like, I only lost one person, and I think they had to get a drink. So like, I'm not even counting that. But again, with the four of us, that I think is the key. We're a tight knit, bunch of
Yeah.
friends, and yeah, the communication between us, that is a really important part of it.
I think that's something I always feel when I go there that I like too is I'll come up to the bar, when there's a show on or something and say hi. And you and Mike and we'll be hanging out there together, talk to, and say hi to me or whatever. But like it does feel like these aren't coworkers that are forced to be together. Or I've seen you guys together out at shows, that weren't at Smalls, like where you went to check some other venue out at State Theater or something like that to see someone play, hanging out and having fun because you actually get along. And I think a crowd can feel that even if they don't know you. That is an energy people can read even from a distance, that you're having fun and enjoying yourselves. They should too.
Well, I mean, we all work so hard. Mike and Natalie and I are kind of the core of Smalls. And so when the three of us actually get to go out, I mean, people are shocked because they're like, well, who's working? And we're like, haha, no one
Is
is.
it closed down? What's happening?
I mean, what was it when Boot Blacks played at
Yep.
the Magic Bag and opened for Gene Loves Jezebel, and Rose Garden Funeral Party played that too.
Yeah.
We just closed the bar and we went to see Boot Blacks because we loved them so much. And they were like, wait, you closed the bar to come see us? We're like, it's true. We love you. And it's not only our relationship where everyone at Smalls is like family, but the people that we work with are like too. And we want to support them every chance we get. So
All right. I want to change gears now. We're going to get back to some of this, but in segment number one, I really want to talk about you have something incredibly exciting coming up where you're doing kind of an actual festival with some of the biggest names in the new scene and bands that I love and putting them together. And I'm going to get to go for both days. Me and Colin and Rachel and Maya are all going to get to come out and hang out for all of it. I'm extremely stoked. Tell me about the festival.
it's called Fixation, and it's happening April 7th and 8th, and it's all at Smalls. The idea behind it was, you look at festivals like Coldways, which are like the gold standard as far
Sure.
as, kind of North American festivals go,
Goth Summer Camp. I go every year.
I've been to quite a few and it's fantastic. That is a really well run festival.
Yeah.
But we thought, kind of Detroit could use something like that. And so we decided to start out, as a 2-day thing, Friday and Saturday. That's very attainable. Gives people that are coming in from out of time in from out of town, I'm sorry, time to get home on Sunday. Um, and kind of like the biggest fish in the lot was health. And I had recently traveled with my friend Jen to Chicago to see them.
Mhm.
And I was blown away. And I was like, man, that'd be crazy if we could get health. Like talking to Mike, and I'm like, what's the worst I could say? Nope.
Right.
And it took, there's the obvious back and forth that there always is. But when we
Sure.
secured them for a Friday headliner, and supporting them will be Boot Blacks, yay! And Author and Punisher, which if you've never seen Author and Punisher,
They're amazing.
and Comfort Cure, who I
Yeah.
love.
A
Joe,
Detroit local, but is getting a lot of national attention as well.
last
Um,
time I talked to Tyler, I was like, "You're gonna be too big for me eventually." He's such a sweetheart. I love him.
I saw him play at the Skull Festival there when we played at that,
Yeah.
and I had never seen him live before, and I was blown away. Like seeing one guy go up on stage like that, you think to yourself like, okay, this is going to be something, but like how much energy could it? And my jaw dropped. I was like, how is one human being this interesting and intense all by himself on stage? And I was floored. Like,
Yeah, I love what I love about his performances, at least in Smalls, is he always starts on the stage, but he absolutely ends up in the middle of the crowd, and he's dancing, and he's in everybody's face, and everyone is like, they're like hypnotized by it. It's
yeah,
some favorite acts anywhere from anywhere in the world, hands down to see. Tyler is really, really an amazing artist. And then Choke Chain, who I can't wait to have back, Choke Chain, and Schedule 4 will be
yeah.
rounding out the Friday lineup.
So even talking about a couple from Friday there, my friend George from Black Rose Burning, the band, said to me something I always love, and he's in New York and Brooklyn, like for Bootblacks. And when they have festivals there, there is a couple festivals I shall not name, but that had the whole festival last year in New York with no New York bands on it. And I always think that's such a crap, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to call yourself for a city, show the
Mhm.
flavor of that city. And when I saw this lineup for you guys, that's just it. I was like, bam, one of my favorite bands in Detroit. Another. There is so much Detroit flavor in this 2-day festival packed in, that it's wonderful. And Schedule 4 and stuff are always just such a great energy show. And you guys have them play there a lot for a lot of people coming through town, because people will always want to see them again and again. They always bring such a great intensity in performance.
Mhm.
And even, changing around lineups or things like that they've been doing lately, you still can always count on that, like, face melting experience.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. To have a band. I mean, all the working bands that we have in Detroit, whether it's Schedule 4 or Siamese or Josie Pace, who we're lucky to have call Detroit her home base. It's we have so much talent, Ken. We're so
Yeah.
spoiled. Like I'm just constantly in awe of these people. I'm like, you're my friends, but you're such a big deal, you know? And that's one of the coolest things I think. Like you can tell when your friends have put out a good project, you're not just being like, yeah, it was great. The art was fantastic. You're actually like kind of starstruck. The first time I played Josie Pace's vinyl on like my system here at home, I was just like, God, she's so cool. I can't believe I know her, you know?
Josie is and well, we can move on to Saturday where we're going to get to talk about that. But Josie is one of those people I say all the time, where I've interviewed her and Ken, I've met them several times and seen them play. And there is something about her that she has rock star energy in a way that, like, there's a feel like William Faith, when I've seen before, you can't, it just drips off of him. There's just something about him where you're like, you're not even like a human being. And Josie has that kind of, like, I don't know, charisma that you can feel crackling in the air like an electricity. And so Saturday, tell me a little bit about who we're going to see then.
So Saturday, even more Detroit flavor. Our headliner is Adult, which I have been a huge Adult fan for a long time. I was just
Yeah.
listening to them while I was working earlier in my office. And so having Adam and Nicola as a part of the bill, that was another big thing for us. Like, what if we could get Health on Friday and then Adult on Saturday? And just like with Health, it took some back and forth and figuring out scheduling and things like that. Luckily, it all worked out. So yeah, Saturday will be Adult, and then we also have Hyde, which if you haven't seen Hyde yet, I don't even know how to describe Hyde.
It's
That
it's
intense.
one of the most amazing live things you can see. And I even know, yeah, it's not even like seeing a band. It's like a performance piece where a human being rips open their chest, grabs their heart, takes it out, and like holds it up to the audience while it's still beating every time
That's
they
that's
play.
the perfect
It's
way to describe it.
insane.
Someone else described it like it's like watching a really it was like watching an exorcism live. Like someone likened it to that. And there's really no way to adequately describe what Heather and Seth do. We've had them at Smalls before, and that was the first time I got to see them. And I was like, I mean, my eyes were wide, my jaw was hanging open, and I was just so into it. It's so powerful. Really, really amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And then Josie Pace is also on Saturday, which I'm
That we
very
just
excited
talked
about.
about.
Mm-hmm.
And always kills it at Smalls, because it's like seeing Springsteen in New Jersey or something. There's something special about, I think, when she plays Smalls, because it's her house,
But also
and
because she's the boss, baby. I love you, Josie. Yeah, no, she she's another one that's tough to describe. Like everyone tries to categorize and subcategorize and genre, like make a genre and a subgenre and then a subgenre of that. But Josie Pace, rock star energy and absolute charisma, 100%. And then we also have wingtips on Saturday, which is great. Love, love, love me some
One
wingtips.
of my favorite, like when we did that sculpt, that we got to open for them and play before them, and it just every time it's so Hannah when and Vince like are just again have this star power, but Hannah when she is just wailing on those D-pads and those drum, it is like an intensity and an aggression that you can just feel all around
Mhm.
you. And they're both so just beautiful, wonderful, sweet people too. And yeah, just always an amazing experience with wingtips.
Yep. And then another one of my local favorites, Siamese, will be playing on Saturday as well for fans of the dark and dreamy pop post punk kind of a feel.
Yeah, yeah. I call them like just slushy goth, or I mean it kind of has this slippery wetness to the sound that kind of is flowing out when you're hearing it. And I think the other thing with them is they're one of those fun bands that I don't know, I saw for the first time 5 or 6 years ago, and I've watched them always get progressively better.
Mhm.
And I think that's what's always fun too when you see a band and we're kind of there in the beginning and you watch them just grow and grow every time you see them.
And that's another one of my favorite things about Smalls is you watch bands just as they're starting out and then they become like this almost like chaotic something that is otherworldly and it almost feels like bigger than the live room can
Yeah.
contain it. But yeah, watching things grow like that is really amazing. And then on Saturday we also have Love Interest, which not many people know a lot about.
I
And
don't know yet. Tell me.
it is a new act. And it's always when you're trying to ask someone how to describe their music. It's post punk with like some darker elements. So, Killing Joke and The Cult with like a Susie twist.
I'm already going to check that out. I mean, that everything that you just described, I'm well and truly into.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited for the headliners, but this is going to be a real big show for Love Interest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it is a newer project, which I think that's important too. You can't just have the super established guys on there too. It's important to feature the new blood, just like we do at our dance nights.
Agree 100%. Sometimes that ends up being your favorite. Like I said, when I went to that festival in Detroit, one of the ones for me, one of the nights, I think right before Hyde played was Croon, who I
Oh
know
yeah.
and have played. I was floored. I'd never heard of them, didn't know anything going in, and it's one of the few bands. I mean, I'll promote a lot of people and I'll do reviews, and I actually, after I heard Croon and interviewed Matt, I went around and like got a hold of labels, DJs. Like I hoed myself for Croon because I was that into it. Like I was like, listen, it's your cousin Kenneth Magerman. You know that sound you're looking for? Well, listen to this, and it's leather, yeehaw cowboy goth with a theremin. How do you not need that?
It's another one of those things that like you say these things to someone who's never seen it and they just look at you like maybe they're having a stroke or like you've got horns growing out of your head. And I'm like, no, no, trust me, trust me. We've got Croon coming up for our industrial pride event with Leatherstrip in Flag Lake, which I
Yes, I'll be there too. I'm excited.
yeah. So
Yeah, so that is all super exciting. And I can't wait to get into more of this, but it's just to have this here locally for Detroit, it's so important. People need, if you can, to go to this festival. You'll see me there, you'll see us there. We're all going to be dancer ass. It's already sold out, isn't it?
it is pretty close. We have about so the 2 day passes when the first day was on
Yeah,
sale.
I remember that. Like I got mine, I was like, yes. And then 20 minutes later, people were like, what? It's already sold out for the 2 day pass. I was like, you should have moved.
Yeah. I think there's approximately, I'd say about 50 tickets for Friday left and 75 tickets for Saturday. We will have a couple of fee-free cash and carry wristbands for each night available for purchase at the bar. First come, first serves, no
Right.
holesies. But yeah, come and see us any day that we're open while they last. I'm not sure how long they'll last once word gets out, but yeah, 50 for Friday and 75 for Saturday.
So this is a must see. You won't want to miss. Everybody check this out. This will be the conclusion of part one of the interview. We'll be back for part two in a minute. But here at Sounds and Shadows, we always like to spin out in between. So at the end, so why don't you give me one of those Detroit bands that you would like to hear us spin out to so that people can hear?
Okay.
As a matter of fact, wait, what was the new band that you were just talking about that I didn't know? We should give them a shout out here.
Love interest.
Love
Yeah.
Interest. Do you got a song that I'll get off Bandcamp that I can spin?
Everything is very top secret right now, Ken. That's the only reason I don't think they'd be the best choice.
Okay, all right. Well, who should we spin out to then?
Ooh.
Josie, that's always good. Everybody loves that.
Josie's good. Schedule for Siamese. It's really up to you. Whatever you want to
You
do.
know what? For round one, to show Stephanie some love and schedule four, let's spin out to schedule four. This has been part one of the interview with Kat from Smalls. And this is the band Schedule 4 from Detroit and the song Stray. From all of us here at Sounds and Shadows, keep it dark, yeah.